Lift the lid off your toilet tank right now. Go ahead, I'll wait. See that pink or orange ring creeping up the inside walls? See that black or gray film clinging to the underside of the flapper? That's not rust. Most people think it's rust. It's not. That's mold and mineral buildup breeding in the one part of your toilet nobody ever cleans because nobody ever looks. I've pulled tank lids on jobs where the water underneath looked like pond water, cloudy, smelled off, sometimes with a slick film on top you could drag your finger through, and the homeowner had no idea because the bowl looked spotless. That's the trick with tanks. They hide the problem and then flush it straight into the part of the toilet you actually clean. Pour a cup of hydrogen peroxide into that tank tonight and you'll see the water change color within an hour. That's not magic. That's decades of buildup finally getting broken down. Let me show you what's really going on in there and why this one habit fixes a problem most people fight for years without knowing the real cause. Problem. Here's what nobody tells you about a toilet tank. It's a closed, dark, damp box that refills with water dozens of times a day and almost never fully drains or dries out. That's a breeding ground, plain and simple. I've serviced tanks in homes where the owners scrubbed the bowl every single week, bought the fancy bowl tablets, kept the seats spotless, and the tank itself hadn't been touched since the house was built, 10, 15 years sometimes. What builds up in there is a mix of three things: mineral scale from hard water, biofilm from mold and bacteria, and sediment that settles at the bottom like silt in a riverbed. None of that stays in the tank. Every flush pushes a portion of it down into the bowl. So you're scrubbing the bowl clean, and an hour later it's already getting reseeded from above. That's why some bowls develop that stubborn ring no amount of bowl cleaner ever fully kills. The source isn't the bowl, it's upstream. Most people don't notice until the smell shows up, or the water starts looking cloudy even right after a flush, or they finally lift that lid for some unrelated reason, replacing a flapper, fixing a running toilet, and get hit with a smell and a sight they weren't expecting. By that point, it's not a light film anymore. It's years of layered buildup, and it takes more than a wipe down to deal with. Why it happens? Reason. The tank is basically a still pond that gets partially refreshed a few times a day. Still water plus organic material plus a dark, humid box is exactly the recipe mold needs. I've explained this to 100 homeowners over the years, and the reaction is always the same, but it's just water in there. It's not just water. Every time that tank fills, it's pulling in whatever's in your municipal or well supply. Dissolved minerals, trace organic matter, sometimes chlorine that's already partially broken down by the time it reaches your house. None of that gets filtered out. It just sits. Hard water is the bigger driver in most homes I've worked in. Calcium and magnesium in the water don't stay dissolved forever. They precipitate out and cling to whatever surface they touch first, which is usually the tank walls and the moving parts, like the flapper and the fill valve. Once that mineral layer forms, it's rough at a microscopic level, and rough surfaces are exactly what mold spores and bacteria need to grab onto. Smooth porcelain resists buildup. Scaled porcelain invites it. Then there's the rubber flapper. Rubber is porous compared to porcelain, and it sits directly in standing water for hours between flushes. That's the single dirtiest component in most tanks I've opened. I've pulled flappers out that were supposed to be black and were actually coated in a slimy gray-green film thick enough to change how the toilet flushed, because a buildup covered flapper doesn't seal as tight, which is also why so many silent running toilets trace back to a filthy flapper nobody thought to check. My grandfather used to tell me the tank is the part of the toilet doing all the invisible work, and invisible work is the work people neglect. He was cleaning tanks in commercial buildings back when nobody talked about this stuff, and his rule was simple. If water sits still in the dark for more than a few hours at a time, something's going to start growing in it. He was right every single time I've checked. Common mistakes. The first mistake is people reaching for bleach the second they see discoloration. Bleach breaks down rubber and plastic parts over time: the flapper, the fill valve seals, the flush valve gasket. I've replaced more prematurely cracked flappers caused by bleach exposure than I can count. It'll clean the tank once, sure, but you're trading a clean tank today for a leaking or running toilet 6 months from now. The second mistake is scrubbing the tank with an abrasive brush or scouring pad. Porcelain tanks scratch easier than people think, and once you put micro scratches into that surface, you've made it rougher, which means buildup comes back faster and grabs on harder next time. You're not solving the problem, you're setting up the surface to catch dirt more efficiently. The third mistake, and this is the big one, people clean the tank once, see it looking better, and never touch it again for another few years. Buildup isn't a one-time event, it's continuous. It starts reforming the moment fresh water hits that surface. Treating this like a single fix instead of routine maintenance is why the same homeowners call me back 18 months later with the exact same complaint. Solution? Here's the method I actually use, and it doesn't require anything exotic. You need a bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide, the regular brown bottle from any drugstore, nothing stronger, a soft cloth or old toothbrush, and about 20 minutes total, though most of that is wait time, not work time. Start by shutting off the water supply valve at the wall behind the toilet, then flush to drain most of the tank. You don't need it bone dry, just low enough that you're not diluting what you're about to pour in. Take a look while it's draining. This is when you'll actually see the ring level and the condition of the flapper clearly before any product goes in. Pour in 1 to 2 cups of hydrogen peroxide directly into the tank, depending on tank size and how bad the buildup looks. For a badly neglected tank, I'll go closer to 2 cups. Let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes untouched. This is the step people rush, and it's the one that matters most. Hydrogen peroxide needs contact time to actually break down organic buildup and lift mineral film. Pour it in and immediately flush, and you've wasted the bottle. Give it the full sit time and you'll watch the water shift color, sometimes going slightly cloudy or faintly discolored as it pulls buildup off the walls. While that's working, take your cloth or toothbrush and go after the flapper and the underside of the tank lid by hand, since peroxide alone won't scrub away the thicker film. It loosens it, but you still need to physically wipe it off the rubber. Pay attention to the flush valve seat too, the ring the flapper sits on, because buildup there is what causes uneven seals and slow leaks down the road. After the sit time, turn the water supply back on and let the tank refill. Flush twice to clear everything through. Check the bowl after. You'll often see loosened debris come through on that first flush, which is normal, and actually a good sign that the treatment reached places a surface wipe never would. Pro tip, and this is something most people never think to do, once the tank's refilled, drop in a peroxide-soaked rag directly onto the worst stained section for a few extra minutes before your final flush. Direct, saturated contact on a stubborn ring works far better than relying on the tank water alone to do the job evenly. I picked this up from doing restaurant restrooms years ago, where tanks take way more abuse and you don't have time to redo the job twice. Do this whole process once a month if you're on hard water, once every 6 to 8 weeks if you're on softened or filtered water. That's the difference between fighting this problem forever and never seeing it build up bad again. That's the whole method, and it costs about $2 in product and 20 minutes of your time, most of it just waiting. If you've never checked your tank before, go do it tonight, because I'd bet money you'll be surprised by what's under that lid. If this helped you out, subscribe. I put out a new one of these every week. Real methods, nothing off a block. Drop a comment and tell me what's the one cleaning problem in your house that never seems to fully go away, no matter what you try. I read every one of them, and some of my best video ideas have come straight from those comments. And if you're dealing with a toilet that runs on its own or won't stop refilling, I've got a full video on diagnosing that. 9 times out of 10, it traces back to exactly what we just talked about, a flapper that's not sealing right because of buildup. Go check that one out next.